I've got a great Dutch oven bread right here that is chock full of Kalamata olives that I tore up. This is the easiest bread that you're ever going to make. You mix it up, let it sit overnight, bake it the next day. It's a no-brainer, guys. So check this out. We're about to show you how to make it all by yourself. Hey guys, there's one thing that you need to know about me, and that's that I do love going to people's houses and I love having guests over, but I hate showing up anywhere empty-handed. Now, I'm the kind of person that will tell somebody to come over and have dinner, but don't bring anything because I've got it covered. And it's true, I do have it covered. But the double standard part of me insists on bringing something anytime I go somewhere else. So this is going to be one of the easiest dishes that I'm going to show you how to make to take over to someone's house. Or even just to throw together for a dinner party. It's a Dutch oven bread, and this is a very rustic, very crusty bread with a soft, chewy center. It's absolutely delicious. I'm going to put a little spin on it today. I'm going to use just some shredded Kalamata olives that I took. So I have about 1.25 cups maybe of Kalamata olives that I just, Kalamata olives that I just grabbed out of the container and tore up, but I've squeezed a lot of the juice out of them because I don't want it to get the bread too soggy. Well, I'm going to start with 4.5 cups of flour right here. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of salt in my flour, and I'm also going to put 1 tablespoon of yeast. And this is such an easy recipe. This is almost one of those set it and forget it kind of bread recipes that you're making at home from scratch. So I'm simply going to mix up my flour and salt and yeast in my bowl just like this. Okay, so one of the reasons that I did take a lot of the water out of the olives, you know, all the brining liquid and such out, is because in order for the olives to be suspended in the bread, they have to be somewhat dry so they can be coated by the flour. So I'm simply going to go ahead and drop olives into my flour and just kind of toss them around a little bit. There we go. And that way they're going to get evenly distributed and they're not just going to kind of clump together in one part of the bowl. That way almost every slice, or pretty much every slice, is going to have a nice big chunk of olive in there. And if you like extra olives, you can put extra olives. If you don't want quite as many olives, then, you know, cut it back to maybe 3/4 cup. But like I said, I have about 1.5 cups of chopped olives right in here, or shredded olives. Okay. So I have 2.25 cups of warm water right here, and I'm simply going to pour my warm water at 115 degrees into my flour, yeast, salt, and olive mixture. Now the water has to be warm because we need the yeast to activate, we need the yeast to rise, and it only happens in warm water between 105 and 115 degrees. If the water's too hot, the yeast will die. If the water's too cold, it won't activate at all and your bread won't rise. And you're going to have a really awkward, not risen hockey puck. And nobody wants to eat that. But this is going to give you fluffy, beautiful, golden bread in no time. I'm telling you, set and forget. So we simply mix this by hand until it all comes together into a shaggy, sticky dough. You see the pieces of olives? Look at that. Beautiful chunks of olives to be peppered throughout the bread. Here we go. So what I want to do now is move all of this out of my way. And I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap. And no sticky hands. There we are. And here's the great part. I said this was a set it and forget it kind of recipe, and it is. I have it covered in plastic wrap, and it has to sit at room temperature for at least 8 hours or even overnight. And then it's done. You set it, you bake it in the morning, you're good to go. So catch up with me tomorrow morning whenever we put this bad boy in the oven and see what kind of golden crusty goodness we're gonna come out with. Your family's gonna love it. Hey guys, so our dough set overnight. This is our Kalamata olive Dutch oven bread, and this is the batter, and you can see as soon as I pull the lid off that it's fermented, it's bubbly, and it's risen so beautifully overnight. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to pour a little bit of olive oil right onto the countertop, and you can use flour if you want to, but I I actually prefer the crust that the olive oil gives the bread. You know, not only does it give it a beautiful sheen, but it gives it that really super luscious, glossy, buttery kind of crust to the bread. So I want to spread this out a little bit, and I'm going to turn my dough onto the oil. There we go. Perfect. All right. Sweet. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of go ahead and knead it in, pull it in a little bit, and turn it over on itself, just like this. All right. So I told you guys, this is the world's easiest bread, and it totally is. It's almost like a set it and forget it kind of thing. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do yet again. So I'm gonna take my plastic wrap that I pulled off of the bowl, and I'm just gonna set it over, just very lightly over the bread, and let this rest for 2 hours. And it's gonna prove even more, it's gonna get a little bit bigger. So during that 2 hours, I'm actually gonna preheat my oven to 500 degrees. Now, this is Dutch oven bread, so we're baking it in a Dutch oven. Now, whenever we do preheat the oven, here's the tip for it. The Dutch oven, this nice, big, beautiful 6-quart Dutch oven that I have right here, has to get to temperature with the oven. So this is actually gonna go in when I start preheating it, so that way it's already at temperature, and that's what's gonna sear this bread and give it that awesome rustic crust that we're looking for. Okay, so 2 hours later, we're gonna put this in the pot and see what comes out. Guys, it's been 2 hours since we put our dough on the counter to let it rise and rest. And like I mentioned, my Dutch oven is gonna be in the oven, preheating with the oven to 500 degrees. So we're gonna work really, really super fast right now because we don't wanna lose any of the temperature. I'm gonna get my Dutch oven out, just like this, and put it on my rack. Okay, move this guy over, put him back on the rack just for now. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is throw some olive oil into this hot oven, just like this. All right. That's about half a tablespoon of olive oil, and you can see it sheeting on its own because you know that it's really, really super hot, and it's gonna coat the entire bottom of the Dutch oven. Now what I do is you normally take like some semolina, but I have masa and it works just as well. So I just simply wanna sprinkle some masa over my dough. And what this does is not only does it give it like a really nice crumbly coat on the bread, but it also keeps it from sticking to the Dutch oven. So I'm going to work very quickly, pick up my bread, and I'm going to put it masa side down in the oil, and you can see it sizzle and hear it bubble, right? Perfect. So now I'm going to get my lid, cover my pot, and put the whole thing right back into the oven. There you go. For about 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, we're gonna decrease the temperature to 425, remove the lid, and let it bake for another 15. So this is gonna sit for 30 minutes, and we're gonna check it after that. The timer just went off. It's been 30 minutes at 500 degrees. Now come and check this out. Super, super hot. Remember, this is a 500-degree oven. Look at that bread. Look at that! Isn't that beautiful? Now this is gonna bake up golden brown, so I need to put it back in here uncovered, and I'm gonna drop the temperature down to 425. There we go. And now I'm gonna set the timer for about 15 minutes, right here. And after that, it's going to be golden brown and delicious. So we're gonna check it right back in 15 minutes. 15 minutes have gone by, and check this out. Turn that off. Look at that beautiful golden brown Kalamata olive Dutch oven bread. This is insane. Okay. And if you listen really carefully, you can hear it still kind of cooking, kind of sizzling a little bit. This is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Now watch this. Remember how I put olive oil, about 2 teaspoons of olive oil in the bottom of the hot pan, and then I dusted the bread with the masa, or semolina. If you have semolina, that's fine too. And then I put the dusted side down in the oil. This is why. Look at this. That means the bread didn't stick, which is exactly what you're looking for, because you don't want to rip up half of a loaf of bread, especially for something that, let's face it, took you all night to make, right? You know what I'm talking about. So we're gonna go ahead and pry this up. Right, 500 degrees, remember? Pretty damn hot. We're gonna get a little creative. Move this here. Grab another one of these guys. Okay, we're gonna move the pot right there onto this one. Takes me a minute to get organized, but once I'm there, I'm there. Okay, I'm going to pick up the bread just like this. Okay, and super quickly move it over to my rack. There we go. Perfect. Now watch this. The bottom of the bread is beautifully golden brown, which means that it's perfect and toasted and just nice and crispy on the outside. It's gonna have a super chewy, succulent center on the inside. It's gonna be amazing. So we're gonna let this guy cool for a second before we slice into it. Kalamata Dutch oven bread. Super easy. Let it rise overnight, 500 degrees for 30 minutes, 425 for 15 minutes, it's done. The bread is finally done. I've got it out on the board and it's finally cool enough to slice. And I know that the smell is just filling up the house, so everybody's gonna be happy that I'm about to rip into it. So check this out, guys. If you love this idea, if you love this bread, if you love baking any kind of other recipes, subscribe to Kitchen Bravo right now, because we've got you back. We've got anything and everything that you could ever want to cook. And if there's anything you want to see, hit us up in the comments and let us know. So we're going to go ahead and slice it. And here's a trick for slicing a round loaf. Instead of slicing it, one way and then across, we're going to slice it at an angle. So we're going to go on a bias here first. Oh my gosh, look at the crunch. Listen to it. Listen to that. Look at the fluffy, airy pockets. And we're going to go ahead and slice again on the bias. And this gives us much more even pieces, much more even slices. Perfect, just like that. So this works best too for sandwiches, so that way you just get nice even pieces to make your sandwiches. Put your favorite toppings on it. For this particular bread, it's a little bit of gorgonzola, some sun-dried tomatoes, a little turkey, some bacon, and it's amazing. So here, try this one. It's good, right? Awesome. Okay guys, Dutch oven Kalamata olive bread. Try it for yourself. Subscribe to Kitchen Bravo right now and we will get you any and every recipe that you could ever imagine and think of. You're gonna impress your friends and you're gonna impress yourselves. Okay guys, see you later.